Welcome back to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning, visiting with Audra Milbrandt. She is the head honcho, we'll just say, over at Absolute Home Health and Hospice. We started talking a little bit about the specific services that hospice provides, and there seems to be a team. Can we maybe take these people bit by bit and tell their part in service and in ministering to a person in those last 6 months?
Of course. So our registered nurse will visit a patient a minimum of twice a week. She or he are going to do all types of things like check to make sure, especially if the patient is not in any pain, that they have all their medications, that there's no serious change in condition, and mostly just support and talk to the patient and build that relationship. Our state-tested nursing assistant will come in a minimum of 3 times a week to help with things like bathing, dressing, grooming, feeding, reading, doing nails, you name it. One of my gals loves to do her female patient's hair because she's a former beautician, so she'll do hairdos. And then we move into the chaplain. And our chaplain will come in, and they are there for whatever type of support that patient needs. Doesn't matter what religion, they are basically there for moral support and whatever that patient wants to talk about. If they want to pray, fine. If they don't, that's okay too. The physician oversees all pieces of the patient's care, does face-to-face visits when necessary, if something's not completely correct that day or what have you. And then the social worker can help with all kinds of things, from funeral planning to nursing home placement to transportation needs, whatever that patient could need. So that is the team in a nutshell.
Does it depend on the person, or it might just go from individual to individual as far as funeral planning? Does a person tend to like to be involved in that? Is pre-planning as good of an idea as it sounds? I've been on the receiving end of both of those, where one parent passed away very unexpectedly and we had nothing to go on. And then the other side, where the second parent passed away after an extended illness and had everything paid for, and we pretty much knew exactly what she would want. So does it go individually? Is it smart to should you talk to person dying about how they want their funeral?
Well, and here's the thing, and I try to encourage this, especially with all my friends as well. Talk to your parents about what they want. Because if you don't talk about it, then you start playing a guessing game.
Totally.
And guessing games are never fun when you're talking about someone who all of a sudden went from 100 to 30% and can no longer tell you what they want.
You're grieving, you're in shock,
right,
and you're having to make a million decisions,
and that's
financially and otherwise.
You want to do. So just for example, my dad and I have talked about everything. We already have his code status established. I know what he wants once he passes, what he doesn't want. And it's not an easy conversation to have.
No.
But you will be so glad that you know what they want instead of trying to guess at what they want.
Tell me how to start that conversation. What in the world do you say to bring that up?
Well, since I do this a lot,
right,
I have no problem talking about it, which is kind of sad. But basically just open the door. Say, we're all getting older, and if say, I've already talked to my husband about what I want. What is it, Mom, Dad, Grandma, Grandpa, that you want? And do you have everything planned? Where should I look? What should I know?
Our family joke is that my mother, when my father passed, looked at all of us kids and said, well, I've got to tell you, Dad and I never talked about this.
Yeah.
And we were starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Totally not the way to do it.
Not the way to do it, because just like you said earlier, it's inevitable that we're all going to die.
Oh, yeah, that is one of those things. It's going to happen. And really, does age matter?
No,
because
not at all.
None of us knows.
Not at all.
We're told biblically to number our days and have a little respect for the fact that there's going to be a number to those days. So age does not matter.
Does not matter at all. And you should always talk to your spouse, your loved ones. My children know that if they put me on a ventilator, I'm going to come back and haunt them. I've told them this.
So don't do that.
Yes.
Little tease in there. You have a need for volunteers, you say.
Always.
With not just this staff. Now, what roles do the volunteers play?
Volunteers can have a huge impact. They can do anything. Pet visits are huge. If they have a pet they'd like to take into one of our nursing homes, or nothing makes our dying happier than babies and dogs. Puts a smile on all their faces. So that's huge. It could be office work. If someone's not comfortable visiting with our dying patients, they can do just about anything. Do crafts, make Afghans that they can give to the patients. You name it, you think of it, we can make it work.
If there's something that you're good at, give you a call. You'll find a way to plug that into this kind of a service. Dogs do make a difference, don't they? What is it about that? Dogs and babies, I love that you brought that up as well. What is it about that makes this easier?
There's some type of calming. You know, if you've ever had a dog and loved a dog, you know that. You can have the world's worst day and you go home and that little dog is always happy to see you.
When we think of all the people that are working with people who are at end of life, and you're trained professionally, volunteers are not. So there might be some skittish feelings about this maybe resonating with somebody, but they're not ready to actually respond to it. What would you say to that person?
Well, that's where we come in to help you. Volunteers go through a training program.
Tell me about that.
So they'll work with our volunteer coordinator and go through a full training process so they know the different things that they can and cannot do with a patient. And they go out with the volunteer coordinator to learn the patients before they're sent out on their own. There's never a throw them into that type of situation. You
don't dive into the deep end.
No.
Okay.
We start shallow and work our way out.
Oh, that's good.
And you can volunteer as many hours as you like or as few hours as you like. So if you only have an hour a week, that's fine. If you want to do 20 hours a week, boy, that'd be great.
Do you find, because of our mobile society, that many patients who are at end of life, particularly elderly, don't have family in town, and it makes more of a difference to have these volunteers and to have hospice, this team of hospice, just for company?
Absolutely. That's where we see patients actually do better as well. If there's one thing every nursing home patient is lacking, it's attention. And attention is huge. And when you have someone coming in to visit with you for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours a day, it makes huge improvements in that patient's overall outcome.
Just as far as battling depression or loneliness or those kinds of things, just having someone that you know is there.
Yes, and seeing the same faces all the time and smiling faces is huge.
Plenty of training involved.
Yes.
What does training look like besides going along with somebody who does this every time and kind of being a shadow for a while? How do you make us feel confident to start volunteering for something as important as hospice?
Well, that comes a lot from the person as well. Just knowing that you're brightening someone's day should give you that step of confidence. Remember, they don't see a lot of people, whether it's a home patient, nursing home patient, assisted living. Patients that are dying tend to become a little bit reclusive. And for whatever reason, that same smiling face makes a huge difference in someone's life.
You just don't want to say the wrong thing. You worry about conversation. What do I do? What can I contribute?
You let that patient lead the conversation. You meet them where they are today. Because some days it might be talking about the right now, and some days it might be talking about 50 years ago. So You just meet them where they are.
That's good advice. Where's Absolute located? How do we find you? What areas geographically do you serve?
So geographically, we cover from Cleveland to Columbus
Wow.
to Caldwell, Ohio. So geographically, we cover pretty much most of the state. I can't say all of the state. Our central office, though, is located in the old Hoover building in North Canton.
So if you're within the sound of our voice, you're covered by Absolute.
Yes.
How do people find you, and how do we contact you?
So our phone number is 330-498-8075, or you can visit our website at www.abshealth.com.
abshealth.com, or call 330-498-8075. It's an interesting field that you have chosen. What was it that drew you to this?
Well, a long time ago, I was 11 years old and my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. She was 44 years old, and she passed away right after Christmas in 1984, alone in a hospital. And I guess I kind of never forgave myself for that, even though I was only a little girl.
You were only a little girl.
But in the same token, I knew there had to be a better way.
Even at that age, you knew there was a better way. So this drove you from that
life.
time until...
All my life. I knew somehow I'd end up helping people. I just didn't know how.
And then how did you get connected with Absolute?
I worked for the company many years ago in one of our nursing homes at Altar Care of Alliance, which is one of our sister facilities. And again, I knew there was something bigger. So I've been in hospice now for well over 10 years.
It's got to be so gratifying and rewarding to do what you do. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Oh my goodness, the families I get to meet and help. One of my favorite sayings is, I have never once had a family say we should have waited to call you. They always say, why didn't we call you sooner? Can't believe how much you did for our loved one, how much your team touched and took care of my loved one.
Well, again, I think people don't call sooner because no one wants to say it's hospice time.
Right. It's a scary word, but hospice is literally hope. It's hope for the dying. It's hope for the families left behind. It's hope for all involved. And there are 3 things every dying patient wants: to die with dignity, not to be in pain, and not to die. Did I already say not to die alone?
And not to die alone.
In pain and with dignity. Those are
Right.
the 3s.
They don't want to be alone or in pain, and to die with dignity. And there is something awesome on the other end. We know there is hope.
We sure do.
And we thank you so much for all you
you.
do. It's we've been speaking with Audra Milbrandt, and it's Absolute Home Health and Hospice. Again, the number 330-498-8075, or go to abshealth.com. Audra, thank you so much for all you do in our community.
Thank you for having me, Susie.